Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Essential Album video. We're now on week 31, and this week we're taking a look at True by Spandau Ballet, first released March 4th, 1983. Some notable tracks on this album include Pleasure, Gold, Lifeline, and True. Absolutely love this album. Probably my favorite album from this band. I didn't know of Spandau Ballet really until 2002 because they were featured on the soundtrack, or one of the radio stations, I should say, for Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I think it was on Wave 103, which is like the new wave station, and the song that was featured on that station was Gold. So really took a liking to Gold, and then I think after that I finally heard True, the title track off this album. Probably, I would say, probably their most well-known song. One of my favorites. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite. There's a couple songs on this album that aren't necessarily they weren't released as singles necessarily. A little more deep cuts that I actually might like more than True, but True is a really just solid song. Again, like I said, probably their most well-known song. I think Gold is up there as well as being kind of like some of their more popular songs here. But I have some notes here. We're going to get through the notes, and then we will get through our track list and all that. Let me just get this open here. All right, so we got True by Spandau Ballet. Like I said earlier, first released March 4th, 1983. This is their third studio album. I think, let me actually just bring up the album list, because it's the follow-up to, let me just check here. Yeah, Journeys to Glory and Diamond were their first two, and then they followed that up with True as their third album. I'm talking about like a really solid, like, I don't want work rate, might not be the term to use, but I believe they put out like an album in 1981. They put out another album in 1981, 1982, 1983, and then they followed this one up with Parade in 1984. So just very quick kind of turnaround times on these records. So from 1981 to 1984, releasing four albums, which is kind of crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, first song I heard from them was Gold off of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And we see here, the first, I have in my notes here, the first two albums of theirs are more like disco or like dance focused. And then this one definitely leans more into just regular kind of traditional pop music. So I think, according to my research, they ended up switching to pop music because the people that were their fans initially, when they were doing dance and disco music, had started to lose interest. Like the quote from what was it, Night at the Roxbury, where Mr. Zanier is like, one moment you're hot, the next moment you're not, kind of thing like that. So once those original fans started losing interest with their dance music, they switched over to top pop music. And they kind of also said, like, we're not going to make dance music anymore. We're not going to feel obligated to make music for this particular genre if people in that like that genre are not interested. Obviously, you're just going to switch to something different. So that's when we get this pop music here. Let me see here. So yeah, the club that they originally they kind of had this thing where they wanted to be associated with this club. I think the club was called, or it was like a music thing called the Blitz, and they wanted to make music that would be the kind of style of music that was played at this particular club. So that's kind of where they got their start with their dance music, and then that's that obviously didn't pan out quite as well. And then they got back, started working on this album. I think Lifeline was one of the first songs they were working on for this album. And that obviously took on a much different like tone than some of their other stuff here. They originally were going to bring in Trevor Horn as their producer. I forget what other video I recently talked about Trevor Horn in, but a very well-known producer. So they brought him initially, and I think the song that he really liked was called Pleasure. So Pleasure is the first track on the album. It's actually one of my favorite tracks on the album because I hadn't listened to this album for a while before deciding to revisiting it just like somewhat recently. I think the last time I listened to it was like not quite a year ago. It was something like in October, according to my like little spreadsheet or log of albums I listened to. So listened to it then, and then kind of had forgotten about how just amazing of a song Pleasure is. But so Trevor Horn went to the drummer for Spandau Ballet, John Keeble, and this had him do drumming. Basically, said it was like a 10-hour long session of just doing the drums in different ways, and then like was kind of like not pleased with the drums. I think at one point he suggested to the lead singer. I actually have the name up here. Let me actually just bring this up here. Yeah, Gary Kemp. He suggested to Gary Kemp that they maybe even just get a new drummer. Um, and eventually they kind of like parted ways with Trevor Horn kind of over that. I have some quotes here from Gary Kemp um, about that. Let me just bring those up here. So basically, like apparently, like Trevor Horn had the drummer do the drums over and over and over again. Wasn't pleased with them. Wanted to have somebody completely like reprogram the drums, probably like a drum machine kind of thing. And and then, like I said, even suggested a new drummer. And Gary Kemp said, "quote I heard myself saying that programming the drums would not just be psychologically wrong for our team spirit, but it would also undermine John as a player." So basically, he was like, "Hey, like we can't do this, and you're going to completely undermine our drummer. We can't really do that." So they ended up not going with Trevor Horn. And then apparently in a 1992 interview, he went on and saying, "quote We couldn't have worked with Trevor because he was too overpowering and too dogmatic." So basically, it just wasn't going to work with Trevor Horn um, doing the producing on this album. And I think it works out well because, like, I forget the producer name for this one. Let me actually just bring up their names. I didn't write it down. Producer on this one here is a few different producers. So Tony Swain and Steve Jolie are the producers on this, and I think they did a bang up job on this album. Like I said, this is definitely my favorite album from Spandau Ballet. And a couple of the big songs on here, "True" was heavily inspired by Marvin Gaye and Al Green music. They kind of wanted to do like a soulish, like a Blue Eyed Soul kind of song, and that's what we get "True" from. They even mentioned, I think they mentioned Marvin Gaye in the actual lyrics. And apparently Gold has some kind of influence from the Shirley Bassey Goldfinger song from the film. We're going to take a quick look at our reviews, and then we'll move into our track listing on this. So just a few quick reviews here. AllMusic has it at a 3.5 out of 5, while Record Meter has it at a 4 out of 5. A 3 out of 5 from Rolling Stone Album Guide, and Smash Hits has it at a 7.5 out of 10. Let's go ahead and look at our track list here. So it comes in about 35 minutes and 36 seconds. Again, like very good length for an album because you can listen to it pretty quickly. Think I listened to this on like a way to work one time, or most recently. Yeah, our track list here, we have 8 tracks on it total. Track 1 is Pleasure. Pleasure wasn't a single or maybe even like a huge hit, but I absolutely love that track. It might even be my favorite track on the album. So Pleasure is really good. Track 2 is Communication. That one I think was released as a single. Let me just double check what the singles on this were. The singles on this were, I guess Pleasure did get released as a single eventually. It was the final single though off the album. So singles on this album are Lifeline, Communication, True, Gold, and Pleasure. So we're back to our track listing here. So yeah, track 2 is Communication. That one's really great. Track 3 is Code of Love. Track 4 is Gold. Again, the very first song I heard from them back in 2002. Track 5 is Lifeline. Track 6 is Heaven is a Secret. That one's also really good. Track 7 is Foundation. And then closing it out with the title track is True. Again, probably their most well-known song. Definitely like one of the better songs on the album. But I think overall, Pleasure is my favorite track on this album. I'd probably go Pleasure, True, and Gold being my top 3. I think something like that. But yeah, so this is just a fantastic, like early '80s British pop album. I think the reason I ended up listening to it last year was I was listening to I think it was at work and we were doing something, and it was like after hours, so we weren't able to just listen to our own music while we worked. And I put on, I think it was Wham's "Make It Big," and then I was just like, let's continue riding this wave of like British pop, and then went into Spandau Ballet and some other stuff as well. But yeah, that kind of was the time I listened to it last year, and then this year again recently re-listened to it after not listening to it for a while, and had a great time listening to it. So yeah, it's just a great album. Highly recommend checking it out. I definitely do need to add it to my like a vinyl collection at some point if I can find it on vinyl. But yeah, that's gonna do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one.